Well, let's move on now. Kenya Airways is still working with South African Airways to set up a common holding company in order to give the two firms a long-term competitive edge against the big Middle Eastern carriers such as Qatar, Emirates, and of course Etihad. We'll get to the details of that process in just a moment, but first let's look at why this combination is necessary. And here's where their respective fleet sizes stood a decade ago compared to now. Kenya Airways had about 34 aircraft in its fleet in 2012. It added another 9 aircraft the following year as it ramped up its fleet expansion program after a rights issue. Well, its fleet size today is about the same as a decade ago. Ethiopian Airlines, in contrast, has nearly tripled the number of aircraft it runs, while SAA has a tenth of the aircraft it had then. So, if being bigger is the answer, how will this partnership between the two rivals actually work? And will competition authorities agree to it? Well, here's CGTN's Ramanyang, who explored that with the Kenya Airways chairman, Michael Joseph. Take a look.
What we're trying to structure is a structure similar to what IAG is. I don't know if you know IAG, International Airline Group. They own, in that group, they don't own, in that group there's the British Airways, Aer Lingus, Iberia, Vueling, and a few others. It's a holding company which has a number of airlines under that holding company operating with their own brand, operating with their own crew, their own staff, everything like that. But we merge the back office. So we have a common training, common HR, common financing, common training, common maintenance. That's where we make the savings. But that will take some time. And it's little steps to get to that. What we've signed with SAA now is a strategic partnership. We've already got full codeshare now between SAA and Kenya Airways. We are now using their lounges in the airport in Johannesburg International. And as steps, we're flying cargo flights for them. And this is something that will grow steadily, but it's still a very delicate process because you're looking at national entities, national pride, airlines that they're not naturally partners, they're normal competitors. We have to deal with the anti-competition authorities, antitrust authorities in each country, and we need to bring in also a West African. The point of doing this is is actually so that we can have an effective competitor against the big Middle Eastern airlines, because they can always outsell us and undercut us.
Indeed, and well, let's just leave the politics of it aside, because you and I can't really talk about what politicians will do when it comes to national things that are seen as national assets, national crowns, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the competition question, because there is a legitimate argument that size in this particular industry helps. It provides, if well executed, it provides for airlines to actually be a lot more efficient, to serve clients across the markets that they're in a lot better. But is that an argument that competition regulators here or in South Africa, the Competition Commission in SA, the Competition Authority here, do you think that's an argument that they will actually be amenable to?
Well, look, I don't think we're ever going to be, in the near future, a 100 aircraft size company. Neither will SAA. I mean, SAA is coming out of business rescue, what they call business rescue. They have 5 aircraft. We have 34 aircraft. Our nearest competitor, ET, has 140 aircraft. So I don't see that they would look at this as being anti-competitive. I think they will see that this is an important thing for survival of airlines. And it's very tempting, and other countries have done this, is not to have a national airline. It's to form a partnership with Ethiopian, Emirates, etc., or Qatar. But the thing is, what I've been arguing with, and what I argue with all the time, is we need to maintain our national airline, because it means that it improves the GDP of the country by putting Nairobi as the natural business hub for Africa. We're on the equator, we have a good climate, we have good schools, we speak English. It's a natural business hub for Africa. If we take away our national airline and we're reliant on somebody else, some other airline, one of the big airline groups, and every businessman who comes here has to fly via their hub to get here, it lessens the attractiveness of Nairobi as a natural business hub. So that's why I think it's important that we survive and grow, and that's what this is all about.
You mentioned a West African angle to this partnership. Walk us through that.
Well, look, obviously, if you look at the map of Africa, we have if we finalize this deal with SA at some time, it'll be Johannesburg, we have Kenya, but we need, I think, a West African hub as well to offer the traveling public big choice in terms of how and where do they want to fly. So we still have to look at that, because, as you know, there's not a lot of big West African airlines out there, and so we're beginning to have some discussion with them. So it'll obviously be, either Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, something like that. One of them. We don't know which one yet, but we are making overtures to them right now at a very high level.
On paper, if you're combining operations, especially on the back end between SAA and KQ and perhaps a future West African partner, there might be some cost benefit to be had by doing joint purchases as well, particularly on something like fuel, which has been has had a huge impact rather on your balance sheet in the first half of the year. Is that part of the intent in setting up this partnership, to have joint purchases, especially on the fuel side?
It's a possibility. I'm not sure, because even in Johannesburg, if you try to get, we have to fly to Johannesburg with a 787 because there isn't fuel in Johannesburg at the moment. So I'm not sure that will be the right thing, or that will be the way. I think possibly if we could, fleet costs, training costs, that's things that could be shared in the future. Unfortunately, they're an Airbus company and we're a Boeing company. So the fleet cost, probably there's not much savings there. But looking to the future, yes. Right now, I think we still have got a ways to go before we get there. But that's the intention. That's obviously the intention. Look, it's a medium to long term strategy to form this Pan-African airline group. But I think it's very critical for our survival and growth.